This is a photo I took in St Ives last year. Those of you that follow me will know that I took hundreds of pictures while I was there, and I uploaded them for everybody to download if they wanted to use them for source material. But I only painted about 3, maybe 4 paintings, possibly 5 from that set of photos, because after 5 paintings I was bored with it. I was looking for something fresh to do. But it doesn't mean that I'm never going to return to those photos, which in fact I've done here. I started to thumb through them again, and now I'm realizing there's loads more paintings I can do from that set of photos. But I like to keep it fresh, but every now and again I dip back into old photos and pull something out to paint. So I guess what I'm saying is, revisit your photos that you took last year and see if there's anything in there that you want to paint. If you're stuck for ideas, you know, you've probably got hundreds of photos and there's always something worth sketching. And I'm going to sketch this in Tayasui, and I'm going to try and keep it surprisingly as loose as I can, but I want a kind of a line drawing type thing going off. So let's get into it. So here we are in Tayasui, and I'm going to start with a pencil sketch. Really, I intend this to be a pen and ink, but I felt I needed to, it's quite a complex drawing, so I wanted to do it in pencil first, and that is going to be on one layer. I'll then create another layer for the ink drawing. So as you can see, I'm sort of going in there, really sort of getting in the detail. I'm not doing I'm not going over the top though. I'm not sort of putting in every nook and cranny and things. I'm just sort of getting in bigger shapes and then sort of fine tuning it a little bit. I tend to do that. I mean, what I really should be doing is I'm putting in detail there, you see, and I should really just get those big shapes in and then come back and start putting the detail in. But I can't resist it. I have to start fiddling about a little bit. So I'm telling you to do one thing and I'm doing something else. The pencil sketch can be really loose, I guess. I'm sort of put little squiggly lines in for the rocks and stuff, because I know I can fine tune this later with the ink drawing, so I can be even sort of looser than ever. But it does mean, by doing this pencil sketch, when I'm doing something complicated like those boats in the foreground, I mean, they're not complicated really, but I guess the shapes are awkward to sort of get down on paper straight away. So doing it in pencil, it means you can sort of erase and rub out, because when I do the ink, I want it to be a lot more confident and just the straight lines going in. So I didn't know when I started this, I'm not sure if I want a black and white sketch or if I want some colour in it. And if I put colour in it, I'm going to want the colour to be really vibrant. So let's see what happens. For some reason I struggled with those little highlight dormer window things on the roof. I don't know what was going off there, I'm sure. So now I'm into the pen. I've realised that there's another pen in Tayasui. I've never used this before, like an inking pen as opposed to the fine lining pen, and I really like that. I like the effect. It kind of, you get these sort of thick thin lines going off with it, and as you can see, when I'm starting to sketch in, I'm putting in sort of dark shadows with the ink. And now that surprised me, because this drawing is a bit of an experiment really, and I had in my head that I was going to do a fine line drawing with the pen and ink, but I think using that nib pen, and I've now changed it to the brush because that really helps you to get those blacks in straight away. I couldn't resist putting in these big black dark shadows, and that's now affected that if I put colour on this, what's going to happen. Because obviously if I'd have done it as just a fine line drawing, I could have used paint to get those shadows, but I've not. I've already made that decision by doing that as a pen and ink. So see what I mean about the boats? Now I could draw them really confident because I've already done them in pencil once. So that was nice. I keep the other boats really loose. So I'm happy at this point. I'm quite happy with how the drawing's going. Getting in some nice darks, but leaving a few highlights in that dark area so I can put some colour in it, I'm thinking. This is what my mindset's going at the minute. So at this point, I'm now thinking I want colour in this drawing. But I'm still putting in these dark shadows. But I do like it. I like the contrast I'm getting. I kind of tend to do, whenever I go to pen and ink, I do tend to put in these dark colours. And I resist it. Dark shadows, I should say. And I can't resist it. And one day I will do just a really fine line pen and ink without these dark shadows. Maybe in the next one. It would be a nice exercise to see if I could actually achieve that. So I've gone to the fine liner now, because once I start putting in the detail, I need a much finer line, and I'm using that. I was just sort of toggling off the pencil line then, and I've changed the opacity of that layer now because I found it distracting. So I'm using that fine liner to put in hatching lines, and here we go. I start putting in, I decided I needed one of the trucks to go in there. And this is a prime example of trying to do it with the ink and sort of getting it totally around my neck. So in the end, I thought, you know what, I'm going to erase that and I'm going to do it in pencil first, like I did all the other things like the boats and that. Get it how I want it and then go over it with the pen, and that will give me a much more confident looking sketch, I guess, even though it's probably not the best truck in the world. But this is just sort of a simple, I wanted it almost childlike, really. That was what I've got in my head. But I don't think I pulled that off. It just turned out like another sketch that I normally do. So I suppose I could have stopped without doing any of the hatching and done that with paint, really. But I guess because I'd put in those dark blacks, I'd already made the decision to do the shading with the pen. So then I start putting them in, and then I had a little bit of an experiment. It really is an experimental drawing, this. And you know, I quite like that water. I don't know, as if I went over the top by putting in too many lines for the water. And I dropped the horizon from the photo a lot. I felt it felt better there, much lower than in the original photo. So I'm still sort of, I decided now to thicken up some of the lines because of the hatching. Some of the drawing sort of has become lost, so I thicken up those lines. And now I'm going in with the colour, and I said I wanted a really intense colour, so I start off trying some inks, and I felt they were just way too strong. So in the end, I did go in with a watercolour brush, and you can see I'm going in quite strong there. And then I use the eraser to lift out areas that I want to stay white, and I've got some sort of waves lifted out there as well. So I'm just using the eraser to get all those highlights back in, and then I go in with a sort of a stony colour for the walls, but I felt that all looks a little bit wishy-washy, so I wanted some stronger colour. So you can see I'm going in with some yellows and some reds. I then erase them. I felt it was a bit too much. Do it again. That is a nice thing about digital art. You can do this. You can sort of delete stuff that you don't like and then go over it. I have in the past done drawings like this in, you know, in traditional way, and then photocopied the drawing onto watercolor paper, and well, not watercolor paper, but a quite, you know, nice stock paper that you can photocopy on, or I printed onto watercolor. I printed onto watercolor paper, and then you can put a wash over it. And I've done that, so I've sort of been able to do 4 or 5 different types of colour schemes onto one drawing. So as you can see, I go in with these strong colours, and it's kind of looking alright. I decided to put another flag in there, but I'm not feeling it too much, I have to say. I think I may have overdone it, and I decided then to take off some of the colour around the edge and blend that away to see if that added to it. And in the end, you know, I thought, I don't like it. I thought, but the drawing's not finished as a sketch. So what I did then, I discarded the watercolor layer and then went back in sketching, and I thought, right, this is a total experiment now. So I started using, well, putting a lot more hatch lines, as you can see, but I used a pencil as well, and then I started to shade in with a pencil. I felt the sky needed something, so I took time to hatch the old way across. Bearing in mind, this is now total experiment. Didn't like it, took it out again. So if this was a fun thing at this point, here we are. This is where I'm going in with the shading, I think. And I'm just sort of gently, with the side of the Apple Pencil, shading in underneath the ink. And, you know, to be honest, I've never done that before. I've never seen anybody else do that before. And I suppose at this point it becomes mixed media. So it's all right, I suppose. I'm quite liking it. I like it as the monochrome much better than the colour drawing, but it's nothing like what I intended when I set out of this real simple line drawing. It's become quite a complex sketch, really. I then turn off that pencil shading thing. I decided not to go with it, although it did add something to it. And I felt that I needed something to lead into the sketch as well. So I put a few more lines, there we go, in the water, just to lead you into that. And that's it. That is the finished sketch I ended up with after lots of experiments. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, a big thumbs up as always is much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, because I've got lots of videos like this and I would love to be sharing them with you. So hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.